Hello again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. Welcome back to Ask the Sup. We've been renewed for a second season. Enrollment, MCAS, school safety, diversity, everything is on the table. This is your opportunity and my opportunity to ask questions of our school superintendent, Joe Maruszczak. You can email your questions directly to me, and I will bring them to Dr. Joe at askoursuperintendent.com. Welcome back. Season 2, we've been renewed.
I know. I haven't had better news in quite a long time.
You know, you emailed me a bit ago, and it made me laugh out loud when you said, were our ratings, good enough for us to come back?
Yeah.
And I said, they put us up against Seinfeld. And when you put us up against Seinfeld, it hurts the rating.
That Thursday night lineup is a killer.
It's a pain in the ass,
Yeah.
especially for this, important work. But welcome back. Good to see you.
Great to be here. Great to see you as well, Greg.
We're in October. It sounds strange to say how was the summer, but how was the summer?
Summer was good. A general truism that somebody older and wiser than me once told me. He's told me, the older you get, your summers seem quicker and quicker. And that definitely seems true. In the summer of 2023, even though it was very, very long, we got our last day of school with kids was June 14th, and we didn't start until after Labor Day. So we had like a solid 10 weeks there, but it seemed to go by in a blink of an eye.
How was getting back into the school? Is this your first? I'm trying to think of the cycle of, this is your second going back to school.
Second in Sandwich, the 34th of my career.
Right. I'm going to do quick math and realize how old you are just by you saying that, but I won't disclose that.
It's very easy math. I think it's a number between 55 and 57. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Excellent. How was it getting back into this school year?
It was good. It was very, very good. And again, I think part of the piece around just kind of getting back to normalcy. We're definitely getting a little farther and farther away from some of the restrictions and the measures that we had to take because of COVID. So we're in a better place, and it definitely had more of a normal feel. And I think there was a lot of positivity and enthusiasm to start the school year.
You had I think it was, trying to think of when it was that you presented your district action plan for the 23-24 school year. So people can see this on Sandwich Community Television. You can watch the school committee meetings. But I wanted to highlight one area, but just in general, how do you put all that together? That's a lot of stuff in there. And if anyone hasn't read that, I don't have kids in the school district, and I was really interested in strategies, tactics, timelines.
Sure.
How do you put all that together?
It's something that happens through, and again, in my position, it's all about being strategic, and it is kind of from our regular meetings as a district leadership team, but then we also did a couple different summer retreats involving our district leadership team, but also kind of our teacher leaders, our department chairs at the middle high school, our instructional coaches and interventionists at the elementary level, and kind of laying forward, okay, what are the key leverage points that will help us move forward as a district, and what can we realistically achieve during the 23-24 school year?
Plus, I'm sure you're looking at past lessons learned.
And then also, what did we achieve in 22-23? We did meet as a team, literally the last 2 days that I believe it was Thursday and Friday, the 15th and the 16th, and we went through our district action plans from 22-23, and hey, what did we achieve? What didn't we achieve? What are somewhere in between? And that helped be kind of the blueprint in moving forward for 23-24.
Give me a couple highlights, district action plans, 23-24. Give me a couple of key takeaways from your perspective.
So one of them is really in thinking about, particularly at the elementary level, and ensuring that our kids have a really strong foundation in numeracy and literacy. We've got a couple new textbook series. one known as ARC, or the American Reading Company Core Foundation Series, that really kind of gets back to some of those basics around phonics and phonemic awareness. We started a pilot with it last year in K and 1, and we're looking to ramp that up through grade 5 this school year. So that's a key piece, along with a new mathematics series, K through 8, that we're looking to implement. So that's a lot of significant work. But then at the older grades, we're looking to start the planning process for something known as innovation career pathways, where students at the high school level would take a prescribed set of courses, and then their senior year, they would have an extended, meaningful internship in that field. So think about things like information technology or broadcasting, or other fields like that, where we could have real solid opportunities for kids where they would be getting or obtaining marketable skills. So through our new assistant superintendent, Dr. Dave Quinn, we received a fairly significant planning grant through the Department of Education. So that work is commencing, working with community partners like the Massachusetts STEM Hub to help plug kids into internships.
So you and I've talked about this in the past, and we have a connection to Emerson College. And when I was 14 years old, all I wanted to be was Casey Kasem. And radio was everything to me. And I went to college for that. I was inspired by that itch that I just couldn't seem to scratch. So I just a completely biased self-promotion of Sandwich Community Television media, really, Sandwich Community Media, podcasts and broadcasting,
absolutely,
and all of that. I'd love to explore further how we could get kids involved here more, but more importantly, and I'm always interested in how, you know, who are the drivers of community connectedness in the school district. You know, I think if people that are running a department or teachers are not living in the community, how do you inspire them to say, look, I know you live in Plymouth, I know you live in, you know, Mattapoisett, but this part of Sandwich community is really important, you know, regardless of what it is. How do you get that connectedness to begin in the school district where people may not necessarily live in our town, like you and me, and have that intuitive connectedness?
Sure. That's a big question. I think you've got to build up a greater sense of awareness of what could be. I think starting with our students' families and those opportunities that they're looking for. We talked extensively last year, Greg, about just the piece around competition, that looking at other schools, Upper Cape Tech, Sturgis, and so on, where families have those options to send their children. Believe it or not, in looking at the data, and enrollment has, for the most part, stabilized. We lost maybe 1%. You know, in looking at the freshman class, or, you know, the class that matriculated from 8th to 9th this year, we've got 37 students going to Upper Cape Tech, only about 10 going to Sturgis. And thinking about the hands-on learning that is offered by Upper Cape Tech, that's very much oriented around careers, I think our kids, even the highest of flyers that are going off to very competitive schools, those kids need that type of meaningful learning opportunity as well. So I think getting the word out there around what are innovation career pathways for all of our students at Sandwich High School is extremely important. Doing it through something as simple as the weekly newsletter that we've launched this school year, but also doing deeper dives with parents to explain exactly what the program is. I think, though, you have to go outside of our community borders of Sandwich and create partnerships with Mass Hire, with the Mass STEM Hub, which we're in the process of doing, to say, hey, I've got some really, really good fits for this IT internship. However, it's in Yarmouth.
Yeah.
Or I have to cross the bridge and it's in Plymouth and so on.
Yeah.
So that's a key part of the planning work that we're commencing this year.
Is that part of the Family and Community Advisory Committee?
Yeah, exactly. So
How those two together?
I showed up at the very first PTA meeting, elementary PTA meeting in mid-September, and I had a delightful parent, kind of just in the context of the meeting, pitched the idea to me, basically saying, hey, look, we've got, a group of parents that are really heavily invested in the future. And this particular parent, I think she's got a couple kids that, one's at Forestdale, then one will be coming up, is only 3 years old or something. And, filled with just a really lot of great ideas and energy. And she pitched the idea, wouldn't it be great to have an advisory committee, keep it manageable, 15 to 20 folks of parents and community members to bounce ideas, but also to be a vehicle to get feedback about the district's programs, our procedures, our policies, and so on. I think you put some guardrails on it. It can't become a vehicle where I'm going to be talking about teacher X or something. I'd like it to be, hey, these are the 50,000-foot view, big picture people. Yeah. So we've put out an all call. We have approximately about 17, 18 people that are very much interested. And within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get those meetings up and running.
And I read that it's not necessarily active parents of the school district. It could be people who don't have kids.
Yeah, and again, I consistently get feedback from folks, a lot of folks who are senior citizens, or they may have connections to our select board or to our FinCom, retirees, like, hey, Joe, we don't know enough of what's happening in the schools.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to push out more communications community-wise about the school district, but I think getting representation from folks who really are invested in our district's success, but don't necessarily have children within the district, getting their viewpoints is important as well.
So kind of pulling that back to the notion that you need people who are in the school district understanding the value of that local Sandwich connectedness.
Absolutely.
This advisory committee is part of that. They can bring forward, like a knucklehead like me can sit there and say, look, we got a podcast studio over there, we got TV studios here. Kids can dream. They can do some amazing things. Selfishly, on the TV piece and the broadcasting piece, we have opportunities with broadcasting school events and things along those lines. We should collaborate on that.
Absolutely.
If I could,
and I know that's very much. I've had last school year. I had some good conversations with Paula Johnson about it, and I think she's completely on that page.
Let's be very clear. I want a studio named after me. That's all I'm going for.
I think it should be the Greg Anderson Broadcasting Complex.
Oh,
it's got to be much. Go big or go home, Greg.
I have $500 to put towards that. If it gets me naming rights, I'm in.
I'll donate at least $5.
All right, perfect. Okay, tell me about. Let's change subjects. And I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
School playground construction issues.
My favorite topic.
What the hell, man?
I think the top and bottom of it is there's been some unfortunate delays, some which have been within the scope of our control, some that have not been within the scope of our control. A whole other layer of it has been also, statistically, I think this is the second rainiest summer in recorded history.
Yeah.
So that has backed it up. The good news is I anticipate within the next probably 10 days, we'll be opening both playgrounds at Forestdale. Per our school committee, we're also going to be having kind of a ribbon cutting and dedication ceremony as the K-2 playground at Forestdale is going to be dedicated in the memory of John Nelson, our late facilities director. So there's a lot good. I would also anticipate, I know we've started the demolition process at Oak Ridge. That will be commencing this month and through November. We will, to get it up and running for the kids, we will have kind of the fiber chips and a temporary surfacing so that in the spring we will do that. It's known as pour in place, that hard rubberized surfacing.
Yeah.
But we will have that up and running for the kids as well, sooner rather than later.
So by timing of this interview, by the end of October, you're going to have 2 of those.
Oh, absolutely.
Playgrounds open.
Absolutely, at Forestdale. Forestdale has 2 playgrounds. One is for the pre-K students, and then the rest is K-2, and then there's one at Oak Ridge.
Got it. Changing subjects. Former Sandwich High baseball coach Brian Tomasini. Mm-hmm. He's suing the school district. He also wants his job back. Mm-hmm. Where are we with this case?
So, to my knowledge, there was a hearing. He technically is suing the town of Sandwich. There was a hearing about 2 weeks ago where the town's legal representation made a motion to dismiss. Mm-hmm. And it's my understanding that the district court judge is taking that brief and the arguments for and against, and we'll have a decision shortly.
Did you see this coming?
Realize all of this occurred before my tenure.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of the details of this other than, the legal briefs that I've read, and, I'm not a person to comment on the specifics of what occurred, before my tenure.
Before your time. All right. Sandwich Middle High School, Gene Nelson is stepping in as the interim principal role while James Mulcahy is out on a leave of absence. Mm-hmm. I frankly don't care why he's out on a leave of absence.
Sure.
It's none of my business. But it is an HR issue, and I'm in the professional world. I understand. I'm not going to, go there. But were you surprised at how much, and this is kind of a leading question because I was, were you surprised at how much gritty opinion, he was this, he was ousted, the negativity amongst our community on social media about this situation? Did it register with you? Did you think about that, see it? What was your takeaway?
I don't think you can gauge reality based upon opinions that are put on social media. I like social media, honestly, as a one-way tool to have another vehicle to put out information. But I can't go by what people put on social media to help shape the leadership decisions that are made or so on. And I'm not speaking germane to that specific issue. Yeah. I'm just speaking in general. I think, unfortunately, commentary is put on social media with people knowing very, very little factual information about what's happening. Mm-hmm. So again, I think it's an unfortunate time that we're living in as far as, particularly if people are using social media as a vehicle to obtain news. It is what it is, but I do not let social media opinions, shape doing what's right for our school districts. And, that's the credo I've lived by for quite some time, and that's the credo I will continue to live by.
I want to get back to social media, because part of your district action plan, you speak about communication and better communication. But back on the interim principal role, how much of that, let me just say, a messy HR issue, a shift in roles, because you also have a new assistant principal.
An interim assistant.
An interim assistant.
Kevin Brajoli, yeah.
How much has that caused disruption in the functional operations of the school?
I do not believe so at all, for the simple reason that Jeannie Nelson is somebody who's been in that building for 22 years. Or in the district for 22 years. She has a great deal of credibility and trust amongst the staff. Realize Kevin is a retired principal. He did, I think, a tenure of something like 12 years of principalship at Old Rochester, but before that, he was an assistant principal at Sandwich High School.
Oh.
So when you have people who have a certain amount of gravitas and credibility, it makes, a challenging situation, less difficult.
And my apologies, I said Jean Nelson, it's Jeannie Nelson.
She goes by Jeannie, yeah.
Okay, all right, good. My apologies.
No worries.
So let's get back to that communications piece, social media. You have the Blue Knights highlights, an email newsletter that's going out. You have this show. People can call you and make an appointment. You have text, and you have all of these other communication vehicles. When you look at the social media piece, while you're saying it doesn't really inform your decision making, some of the negativity can be quite loud. As a CEO of an organization, if you will, if we were to link it to any other company, you want to mitigate that. You want to make sure things are addressed and that there are clarifications made. How does the school district respond to someone saying, X, Y, and Z is an issue, and it gets published, and it gains traction, and people are talking about it? How do you manage that?
I think what you do is we talked earlier about having vehicles face-to-face, like an advisory committee, but you also use tools like ongoing surveys and so on. I shared with you, and you just brought up Blue Knight highlights, and we use an app known as S'more to push that out. And we're getting about 3,500 to 4,000 views every single week, which is just outstanding.
So people that are actually clicking on it,
correct,
opening it and reading it.
Correct. And the great thing about the app, Greg, is it gives you analytics about what's the average time that they actually spend reading it. And it's like 90 seconds, 115 seconds. It's not long.
Took me an hour and a half to read one. I'm a slow reader. I'm just saying.
Well, we do try to put plenty of pictures in it for you, Greg.
Just go with the median numbers.
Yeah.
People like me skew it.
But the fascinating thing is when we push it out through direct email, but then people can also sign up to get notifications directly from S'more. But we also push it out via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. Consistently, 82% of the opens are coming from direct from email. And it's, Facebook is something like 15%. And we push it out to all the Facebook pages across the district and so on. So I think you always have to have the perspective that you can have people screaming on Facebook, and I say this in the negative way, but also in the positive way, like, hey, Greg Anderson is the best thing since sliced bread, and he's brilliant, and all that stuff. And I think we can tend to have a very emotional response, particularly when you see something negative written on Facebook. Right. but I think you have to have perspective on how many people is that actually reaching.
Yeah. Tell me about the facilities. You had a water leak where'd you have a water leak recently?
It was at the high school.
A pipe burst in middle school, October 4th.
Yeah.
Overall, how are the facilities in the schools looking right now?
I think they're good, and I think our staff is doing the best possible job that they can in maintaining. But I've had the opportunity last week, and I'm going to do it again this week, to kind of do a comprehensive tour of all three buildings with our facilities director, Chris George, and also members of the school committee to kind of take a look at what are some of the longstanding issues as we enter the FY25 budget cycle and we're developing a capital improvement list. What are some of the things that we really need to address? Things like flooring, carpeting, some student desks, equipment, and that type of thing we'll be addressing. The work is ongoing with respect to from the debt exclusion of the spring of 22. A lot of that work, for example, the high school roof, the area over the pool, some of those building envelope improvements, that work is ongoing as we speak.
Do you feel you have proper funding to keep the schools, their capital improvement needs?
I think we definitely need to take a more proactive approach, because I think there's, and my predecessor Pam Gould used to speak about this, there's years upon years of deferred maintenance issues that are coming to the fore. For example, when we had the pipe freeze at Forestdale, and we had to displace a lot of classrooms for approximately 3 or 4 weeks, we were dealing with carpets that were original to the building of Forestdale. So we're talking early 90s carpets.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, and if you think about that, and thankfully we've replaced them with kind of a vinyl flooring that is far superior, but it shouldn't come to, oh my God, we just had a flood, and we're now working with our insurance adjuster to replace the flooring. It shouldn't come to that. There should be a regular cycle of replacement and repair and so on.
Preventative maintenance. Yeah.
And I know our school committee feels pretty passionately like, hey, let's have a rational approach to how we can have a predictable replacement cycle.
Got it. Eye to Eye. It's a national mentoring program. I read about this. I'm very interested in this. Tell me about this initiative.
Sure.
What is it?
So this is a program that was brought to my attention this summer by representatives from our town's Commission on Disabilities. And I do think it's a program that has tremendous potential. Essentially what it is it's taking students, it would be juniors and seniors who have disabilities, and pairing them with younger students. So think middle school age or possibly a little bit younger, like, maybe grade 4, grade 5.
What type of disabilities? Give me an example.
It could be really any type of disabilities. It could be a student who's had challenges due to dyslexia, due to ADHD, due to, it could be something like a reading disability, and so on. And to kind of pair them with younger students, and it's strictly after-school sessions. Most of the sessions are kind of worked around kids working together on arts and crafts types projects, but it also has a curriculum to get kids talking to each other. So really the thrust is a student who, maybe is a 5th or 6th grader and is struggling in school, struggling with executive functioning, and basically seeing a mentor an older version of themselves that's having success in school. I think for the older students, it's a powerful opportunity for leadership.
Yeah.
So
we've got up and running.
We've gotten the beginning pieces in place as far as identifying a couple student leaders. So we do have faculty advisors in place, but it's very much a student-run, by design, a student-run organization. So we've got a couple student leaders. We've also selected some peer mentors. Again, by kind of the chapter organization, the peer mentors have to be at least 16 years old, so it's juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
There's training that they have to undergo through the national organization.
Very good.
And then we're working with them to kind of have school staff select students, younger students, who would be ideal for this type of program. So there's some legwork to get this up and running, and we're starting modestly. We're looking maybe like 16 to 20 students in total to kind of go through this, and I believe it's something like 16 or 18 sessions strictly after school throughout the school year.
We're going to end with Oak Ridge School. Hats off to them.
Yeah.
They have been named School of Recognition by the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Is that pronounced DESE?
DESE.
DESE.
Yeah, it's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, but most of us in the vernacular pronounce it DESE.
So this is an MCAS success story.
It really is. I mean, if you look at tonight's school committee meeting, myself and Dr. Quinn and Jen Kirk, our curriculum director, are going to be presenting our district-wide MCAS results, which are by and large tremendously positive, and kind of
above the last school year.
So, kind of an interesting point. DESE is intentionally, and I think this makes a lot of sense. They're kind of looking at results from 2023 and comparing it to 2022. But then also using pre-pandemic 2019 results as a benchmark as well. And if you saw in the news, the kind of lead was, okay, there were some really modest gains, but there's still a lot of learning loss pre-pandemic. Yeah. If you look at Sandwich's data, in math and science, we're already at or have exceeded our pre-pandemic levels. And ELA is just slightly behind from where we were in 2019. Kind of the lead, if you think about Oak Ridge, grade 3 through 6 school, the entire school tests MCAS. The results are just super, super positive. And as a matter of fact, because we're in the top 15 in the state with regard to achievement and growth, we're one of 66 schools that has been named as a school of recognition by DESE. So hats off to...
Give me some names of who you say contributed to that success.
Well, I mean, I think, it starts... I give a lot of credit to our principal, Trish Hill, but also the supports that we have in place, our instructional coaches. But at the top of the list are our folks that are the teachers. Folks like Shannon Bouchard, Christine Skirvin, people
You've
that
always talked highly about your teachers.
Do amazing work with kids each and every single day.
Yeah. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, glad to be back. Glad to have this as another vehicle to push out the word and the good news about what's happening in the Sandwich Public Schools, and I look forward to continuing it.
Every month, we're going to reconvene here. I appreciate it, Dr. Joe Maruszczak. Thank you for your time. It is merely one other avenue, I guess I should say, for you to hear from the superintendent. Look, I have kids. They did not go to the school district, but when they were in school, it was very important to know exactly what was going on. This isn't going to solve all the questions and answer all the questions, to solve all the problems, but it sure is an opportunity to look inside, and I appreciate Dr. Joe for taking my questions. And I assume I will have a studio named after me.
Complex.
Complex. It's a complex, exactly. So thank you so much, Dr. Joe. And you, my friends, I will see you soon.